Hello friends, and welcome to my video. I'm Beady-Eyed Beth, and in today's video I'll be demonstrating how I use embossing powder to give my ordinary paper beads a nice finished look, while at the same time protecting the bead ends. If you're limited on time, I've put timestamps in the video description so you can quickly forward to the parts of the video that interest you the most. I've also added a list of supplies I use in the video description and links to where you can purchase each item online. If you want to achieve the same look as I have in this video, you absolutely must use superfine detail embossing powder, but don't let this stop you from experimenting with the powders you already own. This is not a difficult process, but I highly recommend that you first practice on some junk beads to perfect your technique before trying it on your best beads. For safety's sake, you need to use something to hold your bead, such as a toothpick, small wooden dowel, tweezers, or pliers, so your fingers don't get burned by the very hot air coming out of the heat gun. Finally, you'll need a way to keep your beads upright while they cool and harden. I use a styrofoam block and toothpicks, and keep the plastic wrapper on to keep the bits of styrofoam from breaking off and getting all over my work surface. I poke holes in the top of the block with toothpicks, then highlight the holes with a Sharpie pen so they're more visible. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's get started. It's best to do this technique before you glaze your beads, as the extreme heat from the gun can cause your finish to bubble or burn. Whether you're using a dabber, embossing ink pad, or other method, you must make sure you're getting an evenly distributed coat all the way down into each crevice of the paper bead end. You'll only do this one time because, as you'll see, once the embossing powder is melted, you can then re-dip the bead into the powder and it will stick. I recommend doing several thin coats of powder rather than one or two thick coats, because the thinner coats are easier to control to get your desired effect. Patience is important here. Allow your heat gun to heat up a bit and experiment with the distance at which you hold the bead from the tip of the heat gun. In the same way a lamp worker makes glass beads with a torch, you need to keep the bead moving so gravity does not pull the melted embossing powder down to the bottom edge of the bead, and be sure not to keep it under the heat for so long that it bubbles or burns. This is what I mean about experimenting. Once you've achieved the look you want, push the toothpick or dowel with the bead on it into the top of the styrofoam and allow it to cool and harden for a few minutes before attempting to do the other end of the bead. I like to do one end of several beads, so I can then go back to the first bead, which has had time to cool, to do the other end. If you're using tweezers or pliers, you'll first have to transfer the bead to a toothpick or dowel, or find some other way to keep your bead end upright. This will work on any paper or clay bead. I'm only using 2 beads here because the larger area shows up better on video. Don't be afraid to play around with different bead types and embossing powders. The decorative possibilities are numerous, and I'll be doing another video to demonstrate how to use embossing powder to decorate or completely coat your beads as part of a paper beads series of videos I'll be making. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and to be notified of my future video uploads, click that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. If you'd like to learn more, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Beady-Eyed Beth, or visit my website at beadyeyedbeth.com. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave questions in the comments or suggest ideas for future videos you'd like to see.